I'm so happy to be talking to you all today about your superpower. And yes, I'm talking about ADHD. It has been billed to you as your disability, as a deficiency, as something that you have that is a problem or that you should feel ashamed of. But in reality, your ADHD is a superpower. Well, how so? Instead of looking at ADHD as being a disability, look at it as being a difference. It's not necessarily that your brain doesn't work properly. It's that your brain just works differently. There's a direct correlation between trauma and ADHD in that all of the symptoms of ADHD are also trauma symptoms. So those who have CPTSD have all of the symptoms or some of the symptoms also of ADHD. But those who have ADHD, every single one of your symptoms are also shared with those who are suffering from CPTSD, that is complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So as we look into the past, we notice that those who are diagnosed with ADHD actually have childhood trauma. Now, there are some who are diagnosed that aren't aware that they have any childhood trauma. And so they say, well, I didn't know I had trauma as a child. In fact, I don't believe I had any. But the problem is, as a child, you don't necessarily remember all of your trauma. So you may have received a diagnosis of ADHD and thought that that description was now a solution to understanding your problem. But the problem is much deeper than, oh, hey, your brain has a neurological difference. Here's a pill. The problem goes all the way back to your childhood. It can go even as far back as to when you were a baby or when you were in the womb. Scientists have discovered that babies in the womb, their brain is forming before they are born, so that when they are born, their predilections correspond with the way that they were taught when they were inside the womb. For instance, a child who comes out of the womb, who is a newborn baby, shows a connection to their native language, the native language of their parents, even though they were just born. Whereas they prefer that language over languages that their parents do not speak. Now, how is this possible? Very simple, because their brains are forming in the womb, which means they can also experience trauma in the womb. And so when your brain is forming, if you experience trauma, it can create a neurological difference. So you can be deficient in certain ways, like those who have ADHD apparently have some sort of genetic difference in their dopamine supply. And so if you're walking through life like me and many other trauma survivors with a lower dopamine level on day-to-day life, that means it's going to cause you some problems in order to fit in with normal society, because you're not paying attention to the same things they're paying attention to, because they don't excite you and interest you the same way they interest other people. So the other children who have what's called a typical level of dopamine supply are sitting through class and they're able to pay attention to everything. Well, how come? Well, because these children are stimulated by what they're going through. You are understimulated. Why? Because your brain adapted to the trauma from when you were either in the womb or when you were growing up in your household. And so your brain is now adapted to dissociate. What is dissociation? Leaving reality. So you know how to tune everything out. Well, accidentally, that is, because you wish you could tune in, but your brain tends to detect that there's no danger, or that you're uncomfortable, or that there is something that you don't want to deal with in your present reality, and it just zones you out. And so you can go through entire minutes, entire hours not paying attention to what's actually happening around you. So then your teachers, friends, and family are like, we're all doing the such and such. You didn't know that? And you're like, no, I don't know I didn't hear any of this. What's going on? And we're constantly coming back to reality. Like I had no idea what was happening. Can someone please fill me in? Can you guys please repeat yourself? And you start to feel like, wow, what's wrong with me? Why am I the person that never feels tuned in and locked in or knows what's going on? Well, your brain has adapted to be able to dissociate. So why am I saying this is a superpower? Well, your ability to not pay attention has a flip side to it. You see, when you are interested in something, then you focus in and you pay attention to that subject like nothing else. Like there is nothing else in the world, including going to the bathroom, eating, sleeping. Nothing else pulls you away from the things you're truly interested in. So some of us are going down a wormhole of hyper focus, looking for information on our favorite topics, skateboarding, psychology, dinosaurs, whatever it is we're into. We just keep going and going and going. If it's interesting, we don't want to stop. And that's the other side of it. So recognize this doesn't have to be always a disability. Of course, you have your parts that are difficult, like paying attention when something's not holding your attention. But you have the other part that allows you to hyper focus. That means you can learn very quickly and with very much depth into subjects. This puts you an edge above others. Please understand, your brain difference just means that you are not built to be on the assembly line. You are built to be in research and development. You are built to be a leader, an artist, a musician, an athlete. Because your mind hyper focuses on what you're interested in and you don't want to stop, which makes you an expert. They might want to put you in special ed, but really you're a specialist at what you're doing because you get into it and you don't want to stop when you are focused. So how can we fix the issues that we're going through in ADHD if I'm presenting to you that it's not necessarily a disability? Please understand that the title, ADHD, is a title that's put on several very, very real symptoms that we are experiencing. But these symptoms correspond with complex trauma, impulsivity, risk-taking, ingenuity, difficulty paying attention, difficulty with memory, procrastination, overindulgence, right? Not finishing what we start. Trauma survivors share all of these same symptoms. So why is there this label on it? Why don't they just say, oh, well, maybe you had some trauma as a child or when you're in the womb? Why don't they say that? Well, because you can't sell a pill to that. I can't sell you medication if I just say, hey, well, maybe you just had some trauma. Your brain's developed differently. Let's just teach you some ways of overcoming this, and you're going to do great in life. They don't say that because they can't make money on that. So what you get sold and said is, looks like you have a disability. Meanwhile, 30% of the population has the same disability. They say, here you go. Here's an amphetamine. It's speed. Take this, and it's going to be a miracle pill. The whole reason that the title gets pushed is so that it's easier to sell the pill. And then it makes it simple. They had the pill before they actually had the illness. They were experimenting with the pill on children's behavior, on headaches. They were like, we got this great pill. I mean, it's fantastic. It makes people zero in and focus. It's amphetamine. And it's habit forming, so we'll make a lot of money on this, but we need something for this. And then came ADHD. Okay. But all the symptoms come from your brain developing from trauma. It's a different development. But you got some superpowers there, like your hyperfocus. You also have higher creativity. You also have the ability to take risks. So those who have ADHD make great teachers. They make great therapists, they make great entertainers. They're creative. So we have to change the paradigm. The reason I'm telling you all this is so you can change the paradigm. Instead of looking at the diagnosis and saying, oh, well, you know what? I can't do what normal people can do. I'm not as capable. I'm not as worthy. I'm not as smart. I have special needs. I have a disability. Change the paradigm to I'm different. I have a different ability. I am as smart, but I'm smart in my own way. I am as capable, but I'm capable at the things that I like doing. We have to be interested, and then we can really be invested. We cannot be expected to be interested in all of these various subjects that we're learning in school or that we're supposed to be talking about at work. We're not interested in all these things. So let's look at it as it really is. We tend to be bored easily. So we have to follow the dopamine sometimes. And what do I mean by that? The things that really stimulate you, that really get you interested, that's what you should focus on. So if we take this first symptom here, paying attention. Okay, Roman, well, I have difficulty paying attention. How can I overcome this without popping the pills? And by the way, if you want to pop them, feel free. But if you're looking for a natural way of overcoming it, change the paradigm. I am capable. I am capable of paying attention to things I'm interested in. If I'm having trouble with this, it's because I'm not interested in it. So now how do we overcome this? Well, for one, avoid things that are boring to you. One of the things that I do is avoid classrooms. I do not want to take classes. I do not want to sit in a situation where I'm going to be there live with a bunch of people seeing how I am zoning out and not paying attention, because I will not be paying attention if that teacher gets up there and they're a little bit dull or a little bit boring or the subject is boring. I actually avoid classrooms. But does that mean I avoid education? Does that mean I avoid learning? No, because I have a different ability. And that's my ability to hyper focus in on things that I really am interested in. And so I need to learn how to very quickly get past the things that I'm not interested in. And so what can we do? We have to use techniques. So instead of going into situations where we're going to be at a disadvantage, instead we hand someone a tape recorder and say, here, record this class. Or, hey, is this going to be posted later on YouTube? Can I get the recording of this? And then we take that recording and we crank up that speed, or we slow down the speed at parts so that we can actually pick up what's being put down. We find a workaround. That is, instead of sitting there and having to take it in live, taking the recording, popping it in our ears, and going for a jog while it's playing in our ears. We have a different ability, meaning you learn differently. So if you don't learn well by sitting and just listening to someone talk in front of you, then you gotta find a workaround to that situation. And so you have to actually take what you are hearing, get a recording of it, take the recording home with you and hear it at your pace, which is going to be 1.5 times the speed, 2 times the speed, or 0.5 the speed, or 1 time. Like, you got to fix that whole situation and use technology to your advantage, because we live now where we have these devices that are robbing our attention if we allow them to use us. But if we use the devices, we can use them to our advantage and overcome the disability. And I am telling you, I have had ADD my entire life, and I didn't know what was going on in school. I know I was getting whoopings when I came home because I wasn't doing the work. I didn't know we had work. I was not paying attention. But as an adult, I have learned to manage these techniques, and it's not holding me back from accomplishing anything. ADD is my superpower. It's a gift. So what about the difficulty of being on time? So some of us have a problem actually being able to show up to events on time or to be where we're supposed to be. How can we overcome that difficulty? Please understand the power of meditation. Meditation helps us to overcome procrastination. When we actually take a moment, and it only needs to be a few seconds to a few minutes, to stop and think about what it is that's on our schedule to do. Just pause. The meditation helps us to see on a deeper level how important that thing is that we need to do and when we actually need to leave in order to be on time. We won't have to be late chronically if we've taken a moment to meditate on what it is that we're actually doing and when we actually need to be there. You see, because if it's something that starts at 10 o'clock, we say, okay, yeah, I'll try to get there at 10, and we don't think about it. Okay, yeah, it's on my schedule. But then what happens is we're hyper-focused in something at 9:30, and then we're going, and then it's like, oh my God, the time is going so fast. Oh no, I have to be somewhere at 10 o'clock. And then you get up and you're getting ready. It's because you've never taken a moment to meditate and realize, oh, wait a second. If this event is at 10 o'clock, it will depend on where it is. Okay, now my meditation has led me to maps. Now I am analyzing. Oh, wow, it's 40 minutes from my house. Oh, I'm glad I took a moment to meditate. Let me slow it down here. If I have to be there on time, then I have to leave 40 minutes before the time I want to arrive. Okay, fine. So I'll leave at 9:20. That will allow me to get there at 10 o'clock. Oh, wait a second. When I meditate on it, arriving somewhere on time will actually make me late because I'm not accounting for traffic and all the things that can and will go wrong. And also, if I arrive there at 10 o'clock and the meeting starts at 10 o'clock, well, I still have parking. I still have to go in, go through reception, go to the elevator, find the place. Wow, I'm so glad I took just a moment to meditate on what it is that I have to do. Now I realize that if I want to be there at 10 o'clock, I need to leave an hour ahead, even though the drive is only 40 minutes, because there's no such thing as on time. There's early and there's late. So I can show up early, even if it's a minute early, or I can be late, because walking in that building at 10 o'clock will mean that I'm getting into the meeting at 10:03. That's late. Shift the paradigm, understand it for what it really is, and meditate. And you can conquer your difficulty with being on time. I have no problem anymore with procrastination. Why? Or I'm sorry, with being late, tardiness. I'm punctual. How? How can me having ADD be punctual? Simple. Meditation, developing a deep care and concern for what it is I'm doing and where I'm going and the other people involved. Just a little meditation helps with that. It's also fun to make it a game. We have to do that as those with ADHD. So make it your aim to imagine you're in a game show like the Amazing Race or something. You have to make it at a certain time. You got to be a certain place. Give yourself a little mental reward for getting there on time. Say, yes, I made it 5 minutes before. That's where I was aiming. I was trying to land right at this specific time. You kind of make a game out of it. It gets your brain engaged. When your brain's engaged, bam, you're able to do what you need to do, go where you need to go. The problem is our brain gets disengaged. And that's when the time starts zooming by and we're not focused. Another note to being in a classroom situation or having to pay attention to something, your note taking, make sure you have your pen everywhere you go. Your pen helps you to avoid impulsivity of interrupting people because you can write down what it was you were going to say and just continue to listen to the person. When you're in learning situations, your pen, your pencil, you can create notes that are beautiful, create flow charts, and draw pictures on your notes, create a work of art. Because while someone's talking and you're drawing and charting and doing all this stuff, it actually helps you to be able to stay engaged in what's going on. Whereas if you just look up, you start noticing things, and then you can get disengaged. It also helps that when you're learning something, you learn it to teach it. Remember, you as an ADD, HD, whatever brain have developed as the teachers, the entrepreneurs, the research and developers, the scientists, the people who are actually going to go very deep into things. And so when you use your power of empathy, and you think about how you would teach this to someone else, you learn it a lot faster. You're saying, okay, I'm going to teach whatever I learn today to my kids, or I'm going to pretend that I have a student or someone that I'm going to teach this to. Challenge yourself to make a PowerPoint presentation while you're listening to the lecture. You will learn so much more, because when you start thinking of how you're going to apply it to other people, how you're going to teach it, your brain suddenly becomes a sponge for it. It can't get enough of it. It makes you interested. And that's what we need to manage, our interest. We don't pay attention because sometimes we feel bored, frankly, some of the things that are being talked about. What about being forgetful? Well, Roman, I always lose my keys. What can I do if I just constantly lose my keys? Hey, I can totally understand. Some things like pencils, I have never figured out where my pencils go, even to this day. But in school, I don't know. I must have gone through thousands of pencils. I don't know where they all went. I don't know what happened. So it can be very easy for us to be absent-minded and set things down and not remember where we set them. So how can we, pencils are inexpensive and no doubt someone else is getting benefit out of them. But if we lose our keys, that's a life ender right there. So how do we make sure that we can hold on to things that are important to us? Our keys, our phone, our jacket. So it's very helpful when we create a system or a rule for ourselves, such as that creates organization, such as my keys always have to be in this dish. So whenever I come in the house, I have to put my keys in this dish. It's the only thing I can do. I cannot allow myself to sleep if the key is not in the dish. You always put the key in the dish. Now, you'll forget, of course, the first several times that you're doing it, because you have to build a habit of always putting your key in the right place, or always putting your coat in the right place. But a little bit of practice and you can create a new neural pathway. Even if you have to literally pretend you're coming in the house several times to train your brain to put the key in the right place. You can literally walk out of your front door, walk in, put the key in the right place, pick it back up, walk back out, walk back in, and do this for 10 minutes, 5 minutes a day. Because why? You're creating a neural pathway. You're retraining your brain. Also, use recordings and notes and writing for your memory. You understand that you're not naturally going to remember every little thing that someone tells you. So all of our phones have recording features on them now. Record wherever you go all the time. Just keep the thing going. Record everything. It's not to be it's not to be shady. It's for our memory. We don't remember things that are said sometimes, or things even that we might have said or done. But when we have those recordings, we can go back into those files and see, oh wow. And actually, as we start jogging our memory, we really can remember a lot. We can remember a lot of things. When we assign emotion to something, it helps us to remember it. When we don't remember something, it's because we didn't assign any emotion to it. That's why we put things down and kind of lose things that aren't important. You can learn people's names very fast, but you have to use mnemonic devices. Mnemonic devices are where you think of something their name sounds like, and you'll immediately remember their name. So I met a guy named George. I started calling him Curious George in my head. Sometimes I'll tell people the mnemonic device out loud, and they might think that I'm just making a dad joke, but I'm actually doing that because that will help me to remember their name. So I meet them and they say, I'm Ronnie. And I'm like, oh, you're like Shy Ronnie. And they say, oh, haha. They don't understand why I'm doing that. I'm doing that because I will now never forget their name. They're Shy Ronnie. I know because I connect it to something else. What does their name sound like? How can I make it into a nickname? There's a guy named Vu. So I call him Deja Vu. I just nickname him Deja Vu. That way I can remember it because I can't forget Deja Vu, but I would definitely forget a name like Vu because it's difficult for me to remember something like that. But now, wherever I go, I know everyone's name, and it looks like I have an amazing memory because we have our hippocampus, we have our memories, it's there. We just need to know how to tap into it using these mnemonic devices or using association. Remember, we have to change the paradigm. It's not I can't, I can. I am capable. In fact, I'm highly intelligent. In fact, this is a superpower. This is a gift. I wasn't made to be on the assembly line. I was made to be in research and development, to be a CEO, to be an entrepreneur, right? So what if we have to read something for school that's really boring and we can't comprehend it? How do we get over that? It's like, oh, I keep reading it over and over, and it just keeps going past my face. I can't remember even what I read. Use a game. Use the slang game. The slang game is where when you read something that's technical jargon, or when you read anything, just read each sentence, and after each sentence, translate it into slang. And when you do that, you kind of make yourself laugh too, because you think it's kind of funny how you can actually break things down and make them more simple. So you're translating it every time you read it, as you would say it to someone on the street, as you would talk to your friends. How would you tell your friends what you just read? So just do every sentence like that. Or you can do it as, how would I explain this to my 4-year-old? But every time you do that, you trick your brain into comprehending it. You will understand everything that you are reading, no matter how technical or big the jargon is. Of course, look up the words that you don't understand. What about procrastination? Every trauma survivor, they say, Roman, I don't know who you've dealt with in the past, but I am the biggest procrastinator you have ever met, because I just wait until the very last minute to get anything done. And then I'm just panicking by the time I have to get it done because now there's a deadline. There's a lot of things we have to do to break down the issues with procrastination. First of all, we have to get rid of perfectionism. Perfectionism causes us to procrastinate because we want to do everything to the highest degree of excellence, and therefore we can't ever do it. We can't ever start it because it's going to take on too much work. It's going to be too difficult. And so we procrastinate. When we let go of perfectionism, we say, I don't want to do this to the highest degree of excellence. I just want to get it done. Done is better than perfect. Then we feel more motivated to do it because it's not that big a deal. And ultimately, that's what we need to be doing, is just doing the task, not trying to make this perfect, amazing, mind-boggling project. Let's just think small, right? Meditation, as I mentioned, meditation breaks up procrastination. So when you look at a project that you have, taking just a moment, just a few seconds to just meditate on it. That is to pause and think. What is this project? When is it due by? How long will it take me to work on this? How much time do I need exactly for this project? Could I start reading some of the research information now so that I don't feel like I haven't done anything towards it? By meditating, by taking a moment to think about what it is when we first receive an assignment, that can help us to avoid the full-on procrastination in the end. The other thing that you should do is break things down into small bits, right? Because it's easier to take on the smaller projects than it is to take on the big project. So it's a very big difference between telling myself, I have to finish a term paper, and telling myself, I need to write an introductory paragraph for a term paper. Break it down into small bits. Today, I'm just writing an introductory paragraph. That's all I'm doing. Your mind doesn't mind letting you do smaller tasks. Introductory paragraph, no problem. Term paper, your mind's like, no, we're not letting you do that. No, We're going to distract you with everything else. You're going to get everything else done except that. Lastly, here's this tip for procrastination. This is really important. I use something called practical procrastination. People who are high achievers, who have a high output, people who have a high output of material, who are prolific, they use practical procrastination, which means you are purposely waiting until you absolutely need to get it done to get it done. A lot of times we think, well, I should start projects well in advance and then I won't be a procrastinator. But the reality is, if you start projects way in advance, you'll actually just end up spending too much time on the projects. If you start the projects too early, then you're going to spend all of that time on the project and you're still going to get to the end and you're still going to feel panicked. So leverage the panic using practical procrastination. Practical procrastination is purposely waiting until basically the last amount of time that you're going to have to finish the project, the least amount of time that it's going to take, and then starting the project. Those who work with me behind the scenes know that for Monday night motivation and our Wednesday night group discussions, preparation starts that day, that evening. At about 5, I'm preparing to go live at 7. It's procrastination. Why? Because it's going to take me about an hour and a half to actually do it if I focus totally on it. But if I start a week in advance, I could literally spend 5 hours preparing for one discussion. So to avoid spending my entire week working on the next one and the next one and the next one, because I have to output like this, I don't work on the output until it's time for the output. Right before the due date, I know that it's going to take me minimum an hour and a half to be able to turn out some type of quality product. So that's when I start, 5 p.m. that day. Practical procrastination. Don't work on your speech weeks in advance. Wait until a little bit before the deadline and then purposely start it then so that you can actually focus. And believe me, you will focus when you feel that deadline on your back pending. Holy smokes, at 6:30 already. Go, 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 go. You'd be surprised how fast you can move, right? So utilize your superpower. You've always waited till the deadline. Use it as a gift, because we can turn out some pretty good work at the deadline. We've been doing that since we were children. So what about if you're an absent-minded eater, you end up eating too much, it takes you off of your diet routine? What can you do for that? Stop restricting yourself. Restriction leads to overeating. It leads to overindulgence, because you've been going, oh, I can't eat any of these types of foods for this amount of time. No. It leads to a crash. Boom. And then one day you try one cookie and then the whole pack is gone. So stop restricting yourself. Allow yourself to live a lifestyle of moderation. This is what that will allow you to have whatever it is that you want in moderation. I can eat a cookie. I'm only going to eat 3 or 4, depending on the size, or 5 of these. Or if it's a big one, just one cookie is going to be fine, right? You create the limitations, but don't be restrictive. Being too restrictive causes you to overindulge and you catapult the other direction. It's like a rubber band effect. You pull too far one way and you're going to go flying the other direction. Living your life in moderation, practicing the art of self-control on a daily basis allows you to actually build the habits that will allow you to be healthy with the way you associate with your food. Also, try not to be absentee when you're eating mentally. So don't zone out while you're with the bag of chips, because the zoned out eating or the emotional eating that will cause you to overindulge. Instead, be mindful when you find yourself snacking and you come to, in that moment, place the limitations and say, oh, okay, whoa, I didn't realize I was doing this right now. Why am I snacking? Am I hungry? Am I just tired? Am I emotional? What's actually happening? And let me just grab a couple more and then just go ahead and close up this bag, put it away, and do what I need to do to actually take care of myself, which is to prepare the meal or to sit down and deal with my emotions using the JOT method. So what about if it's taking you forever to fall asleep at night? You're just up like, oh man, my ADD brain, it doesn't want to sleep when you're in bed just tossing and turning. What do we do for that? Try to remember you're not a machine. It doesn't work that way with sleep. You don't, oh, it's 11 o'clock p.m. Let me just snap my fingers and I just go unconscious just like that. It's not how sleep works. Sleep is an automatic bodily function. It will happen when you are not feeling anxious, when your brain feels and it sees all the cues of safety and relaxation. And if your body needs and craves that sleep and all the factors are in the right place, then your body will take the sleep. You cannot just command it. So let go of the idea that I need to command my sleep right at the right time. And if I'm not sleeping at the right time, that means I'm broken. And oh my God, my whole life is over. That creates more stress, more anxiety. When you're in bed and you're tossing and turning, get up, turn on your light, do the JOT method on what you're tossing and turning on. If you're having anxiety, utilize the JOT method to calm your anxiety. Then get back into bed. You cannot force it. There's a little exercise you can do to make yourself go to sleep. So you can cross your hands like this across your chest while you're laying on your back, or you can sit on the side of your bed and lay your hands on your thighs and just tap. And you want to go about the rhythm of a clock on the second hand. Tick, 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 tick. And then breathe 4 seconds in, 4 seconds out, 4 seconds in, 4 seconds out. You do that for 4 minutes and you'll begin yawning and you'll be ready to fall asleep. It calms the physiology. It puts your body into a rhythm. It's a little trick you can use, but you have to deal with your anxiety. Okay, but what if I have trouble, Roman, keeping a schedule or regimen or keeping consistency? Because it's like, I know what I want to do. 8 o'clock, I want to go exercising. At 9 o'clock, I want to be eating breakfast. At 10 o'clock, I want to be going into the office. At 12 o'clock, and when you have this whole breakdown of how you're supposed to be this perfect person, right? What I'll tell you to do is take your schedule, crumple it up, throw it in the garbage. You are not built to work on an assembly line. You are not a machine. You are a free spirit. You are a terrestrial being, right? A child of the earth. You need freedom in your schedule. Not more regimen, because we're like, man, I can manage this ADD by just, I'm going to write at 2 o'clock, I do this, and at 2:05, I do this, and at 2:10, don't do that. Erase all that. Get rid of all that. On your board, your little vision board or your mirror or your wall, write down your main goals that you're trying to accomplish in your life. I want to create a platform for women to blah, 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 blah. Write that down. That's the main goal. Underneath every day, you're going to have your to-do lists. Your to-do lists are going to be the things that you want to get done that day. There will always be more on your to-do list than you can actually do. So when you wake up in the morning, you put your hands on your hips like this, and you look at your to-do list, and you're going to pick 1, 2, or 3 things, because that's all you can really get done in a day. It's a little sobering, but it's true. You can really only get 1, 2, or 3 big things done in a day. So just circle, okay, today I am going to go to FedEx and mail this package. Let's see, I could maybe do 2 more big things. I'm going to make a big fancy dinner for me and my friends tonight. I can maybe get one other thing done today. One other big thing can get done. So let me do something. So I'm mailing the package. That's for my purpose. And I'm doing something with my friends. So that's good for me. So let me do something that's going to be more on the defensive level. I think I will open up QuickBooks and start to take a look at my taxes. That's all you're getting done for that day. 3 big things. You can get small things done like brush your teeth and walk your dog, but big stuff, you can only get 1 to 3 big things done a day. Let go of the regimented times and all this stuff. That's just something to make yourself hate yourself. You're just going to punish yourself because you didn't stick to the regimen. Let go of the regimen. Be free. Know your vision, know where you're going, what you want to do overall, and just write on your board if you want to get to the gym. Don't try to schedule in, this is the time. No. Be easy. You're not a machine. Put it on your board, circle it, and say, yes, I can get to the gym today because I can only get 3 things done a day. So, bam. Then you can start to feel good as you're actually accomplishing things. Focus on what you did do, not on all the things you couldn't do. There's always going to be things on your list that you were unable to get to. So what if you have trouble finishing things fully? So you tend to start things, but you don't finish them. Write on your paper, if you're taking notes, that's okay. Most of us don't finish most of our projects. Even people without ADHD don't finish all of their projects. Sometimes it's with good reason. Sometimes we need to let go of a certain project. It was fun at that time. That was what we wanted to do. We got inspired, but at this time we don't want to do or spend the extra time, energy, effort into finishing that particular project. We should actually take what we've learned and move on to something else. So if you're running a ratio of 85% of my projects I don't finish, that's actually good, because 15% of your projects you will finish. And the 15%, in order to finish them, you can actually utilize now the tactic of being hard on yourself to get it done. The reason it made the 15% is because it's truly important. It's vital that you get it done. So now you can push yourself as you get into that final quadrant, that last sprint. You can be hard on yourself and you can say, come on, you got to do this. You have to do this. I'm not going to allow myself to do anything else until I get this project done. You can push yourself, but this is a minority case. Only 15% of the time you want to do that. What happens is when we try to be hard on ourselves 80% of the time, it all just fails. And then we go, I don't understand why I can't get everything done. It's because you're trying to get everything done. It's okay to not finish some projects, even a lot of your projects. Zero in on the 15% that really matter and drive it home on those. The last one I'll talk about is when you're doing tasks and you have a lack of focus or a lack of motivation to really focus on those tasks. How can we deal with our lack of effort, lack of focus, and motivation on tasks? Try to remember that your brain, the way it works, it doesn't have dopamine for everything that you do. So you have to add the dopamine. You can do that by creating a game. Your best friend is going to be your timer. Anything you want to do, every assignment, use a timer and pretend you are on a game show or that there's some stakes involved, and break it down into a small little task. And you turn that timer on 3 minutes or 5 minutes. You let that thing tick. You let yourself, if it's on your phone, you can see the timer going down. And you know what happens? The adrenaline starts going in your body. You start going, oh my God, the time. Oh my gosh, as I'm running out. It's like, oh, now you're washing dishes like a madman, right? Or you're typing like a madwoman just because you see the timer. We trick the brain. Remember, we're really good at last minute things, deadlines. So you have to make your brain believe there's a deadline and it's in 5 minutes. And all of a sudden, you will start moving, you will start focusing, and you will start being motivated to get these tasks done. So hopefully you found these techniques helpful to help you to naturally fight against and overcome your ADHD. You are amazing. You can accomplish anything you put your mind to. So let's put our mind to what we truly want to accomplish and engage our superpower.